So we have some big plans for the X-Men, and if you are an X-Men fan, I can tell all the X-Men fans out there that next year is the year for us. I'm making sure that the X-Men are coming back into prominence, putting some great creators on the books, and you'll be seeing.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and we had big news this week as far as Dan Didio's firing from DC Comics, and it kind of got me thinking about the state of comics, and I wanted to talk about the job Cebulski's been doing over at Marvel. And with me today is my X-Men historian, the Marvel aficionado, a guy that likes to talk about comics no matter what what the topic is. What's going on, Doc?
Not too much. It's a wonderful day. Get to talk about comics with you, man.
Yeah, so I remember when CB Cebulski, was hired as the editor-in-chief at Marvel Comics, there was a lot of expectations that things were going to change overnight, and of course that didn't happen. That was never going to happen. But when you sit back and you look at all the things that have changed since he's got there, Marvel is in a much healthier place as far as creative goes, as far as their interactions with their customers and stuff. And the first real big thing that he implemented was, he brought back all the classic characters. Yes, the new, more diverse versions of the characters still exist, but he brought back Tony Stark to the forefront. The Fantastic Four came back. Bruce Banner is the Hulk again. What do you think about his decision to bring back all the classic characters? It hasn't gone perfectly, but it's certainly an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, you still got people like Ta-Nehisi Coates doing Captain America, but at least it's Steve Rogers as Captain America. For the most part, you did get that return of classic characters, and while they couldn't just do what I would have liked, which is to throw all the dollar store knockoff versions into the sun, he was able to kind of shuffle them off into the corner and make them generally irrelevant. And even people like Captain Marvel, that Marvel had been trying to make into a thing for 5-6 years at that point, they're just leaving her title just boring and off to the side, and they're not, okay, they're trying to hype 150th issue, but for the most part, nobody gives a damn about that title, and it's not being marketed as absolutely essential. Their marketing has adjusted back to normal, healthy levels with classic characters. And even if the stories or the creators aren't the best, you're still getting the classic characters, and you're still getting, and that's already an improvement. I mean, could they have done it better? Sure. I mean, but you can't change everything overnight. But they did manage to bring back all the classic characters. We got the Fantastic Four back after a while. Now, granted, it took a little circuitous route to get there, and I still think that Chip Zdarsky would have been the better guy to take that book over Slott, but we got there.
Yeah, and we got a much healthier X-Men universe going on right now. Nothing's perfect, but it's a good X-Men universe. It's a huge improvement over the X-Men red, blue, yellow crap that we were getting several years ago.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we're not getting taste like mustard and bigotry anymore. They haven't had somebody like Tom Taylor. We're not getting told X-Men Red is super duper ultra important.
Yeah, and you look, Donny Cates is now on Thor. It's been an amazing start to that. Jane Foster's no longer Thor; she's Valkyrie. Whatever, no one cares about that character. The Spider-Man had a great start to the run. Actually, with Nick Spencer, I was shocked. Hunted was, I wouldn't call it a classic storyline, but it's a really good storyline that's certainly readable, and it's definitely worth your time and money to go check that story out. So we're getting things that we weren't getting before, and they're all focused on those classic characters. So I think that's a huge improvement from the day that CB Cebulski stepped in the door.
Absolutely. As you said, you brought up Amazing Spider-Man. For the first 20-some issues, it was really, really good, and then it started getting crossover fever. And it took a lot of the wind out of the sails of that book. But I think that if they get back to just doing, what they were doing in the first 20 some issues, they've been doing that for the last couple. Now that, they had about 10 issues there of nothing but crossover related stuff. But I think if they stick to their guns and stick to the, just that story that they wanted to tell in Amazing Spider-Man, you're going to get some of that hype back.
It's not that he just brought the classic characters back to their mantles, back into the fold and into the forefront at Marvel. He also did a good job getting rid of some of the riffraff. Bendis is moved over to DC Comics. He was a huge issue over at Marvel Comics. He's one of the reasons that everything was so dull and boring, and he had a ton of influence there. Max Bemis has been shown the door. One of the most unprofessional writers in the entire industry, not at Marvel Comics anymore. Cena Grace, one of the worst writers in the industry, shown the door. Tried to burn his bridge to Marvel to the ground, for having the audacity, to say, you know what, you're not good enough to be here. Chelsea Kane, same thing happened with her. She's been shown the door. Heather Antos, one of his first big moves was she was shown the door. So I think he's gotten rid of a lot of the riffraff, the talent that wasn't deserving to be at Marvel. Bendis being a huge issue there. And we're, Jonathan Hickman's back in the fold on X-Men. We're getting Fabian Nicienza going to come back and do a Juggernaut series. Larry Hama's going to come back and do Albert and LCD. He also did a Wolverine one-shot. He had a part of that. We've also got Garth Ennis on a Punisher book right now. Some of that talent, the top of the heap is starting to churn up, and you're getting better creators, especially the writers. But we've also seen Patrick Gleason come over. Marco Cicchetto is rose to the forefront. Russell Dowderman, RB Silva, Pepe Larraz. They've got a lot of excitement going on as far as the creators go, which they definitely didn't have when he came on. He came on board.
Victor Bogdanovich on Wolverine. Adam Kubert on Wolverine. Before CB was in charge, the only thing that Fabian had on his schedule at Marvel was some promotional book with some military contractor that got axed almost the minute it got announced because of Twitter blowback.
I think it was Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Lockheed Martin. So that was the only thing that that's the only time we had heard his name at Marvel in a good number of years. And now he's doing a Juggernauts miniseries. Now it's just a miniseries, but it's still, we're still getting 5 issues of him. Ron Garney's gotten more work. G. Willow Wilson and David F. Walker are gone. They followed Bendis over to DC. Yeah. Same with Fraction and Kelly Sue. A lot of these forced upon us creators that were not very good and that were terrible with the customers. Let's be perfectly honest. A lot of these people were just terrible with the customers. Now they're at least trying to give readers what they've responded to previously, but it's still a vast improvement. Getting rid of people that aren't going to bring you new readers and that are just going to cost you existing readers is just smart business, period.
Yeah, so I couldn't be more excited, with the talent pool that they have. Donny Cates has been elevated. He's constantly getting, premier characters and elevating them up. And, Chip Zdarsky has been elevated up. He's got that. He had Spider-Man Life Story. He's on Daredevil right now. The best Marvel comic, without a doubt, in my opinion. Just the quality at the top is just so much better. It's better than DC right now because DC ended up promoting a lot of talent that they feel are important, but they aren't really quality. And it just ruined their top of the heap of their comics as far as Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman. They were just all terrible. All the comics that are supposed to feel important, other than The Flash, maybe Green Lantern, they just had terrible creators. Whereas Marvel, you've got the best creators basically on the best titles. Yes, Dan Slott is still in there, writing Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Fantastic Four. Ta-Nehisi Coates is still on Captain America. Rome wasn't built in a day, but it is night and day compared to when CB Cebulski walked the door. And I have to give him kudos because he's done a great job getting better talent, improving the quality of writing at Marvel Comics.
Absolutely. And I've heard a couple of people say in the last 2 years, well, CB was never really, he was always the hatchet man. Okay, well, you needed a hatchet man.
yeah, if that was the purpose, then I guess he's done a good job, because it's definitely been better for fans. I also want to talk about something that he's definitely improved upon as far as the culture at Marvel Comics. He hit upon it earlier as far as social media and interaction with customers. Just 2.5 years ago, it was awful. They would just shred customers, constantly belittling them, telling customers to feast on their ass, doing all kinds of stupid shit. But now, for the most part, even a Nick Spencer, who probably hates a majority of the readers of his Amazing Spider-Man book, he's not antagonizing them anymore. You just don't hear from him, really. It's refreshing that he's taken action. He's moved out some of the bad apples, and even the ones that remain, other than Saladin Ahmed and a couple of choice creators like that, for the most part, they've all fallen in line, and they're on their best behavior.
Yeah, and that's a big improvement. I don't know if it was just getting rid of the bad apples and using them as an example to get the other people in line, or if it was some mandate from management. I don't know. But for the most part, the creators have stopped being antagonistic for whatever reason. And that's all we ever asked. It's smart business. If they're not going to be out promoting their stuff, if they're not going to be just talking about normie everyday stuff, at least not antagonizing people. Mm-hmm. And that's been a huge improvement. I don't know what the exact cause is, and I really don't care. It's not terribly relevant, but it's better. And that's what I think a lot of us were hoping for whenever he took the job, just for it to get better. And it has.
I wish they would stop using Blockbots. I don't think, I've said it on the channel before, I don't think that Blockbots are unethical or even immoral. I don't think that you're a bad person if you use Blockbots, but I do think they're terrible business decisions, and they are lazy, like Perch said. It's a lazy move, because you end up blocking customers that actually want to interact with you, just so that you can block out 2 or 3 people that are being dickheads. I understand how it is, on social media. It is a minefield, especially if you have, a name out there and people want to mess with you. But it's just easier to block, individually. But Blockbots is still a thing. Slato Blocktavius is still a thing. Al Ewing definitely uses Blockbots, and there's some other creators. But otherwise, I just think Marvel's doing a bang-up job. Not a bang-up job, but compared to where they were, CB Cebulski has definitely implemented change, and it's gotten better for the customers, and that's who I'm always looking out for.
Yeah, it's a vast improvement. I don't care where it's come from. Correlation does not equal causation, but there's a lot of correlation and a lot of change that has happened under CB's stewardship that is appreciated, at least by me as a customer.
Yeah, so those are like the 3 big areas that I think you cannot deny that have gotten so much better. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. But just bringing back the classic characters, huge improvement. Bringing in better quality writers, getting rid of a lot of the riffraff that just didn't belong at DC or Marvel Comics anyway, huge improvement. Their interactions with customers and their and the way that Marvel writers and creators and even editors are treating their customer base on social media, huge improvement. But there are definitely things that they need to do better. And my biggest complaint that I think maybe has gotten worse under Cebulski is the non-stop event cycle.
My God, yes, you are correct. CB giveth and he taketh away. Mostly from our wallets. The non-stop events are, but I don't know how much this is him and how much this is David Gabriel, because they're still on the absurd ratio variant ordering schemes. We know that they're still doing a little bit of overshipping every once in a while on certain books. I feel like the events are to make up for the fact that the variant scheme isn't working the way it used to, because the collector market is drying up on these absurd ratio variants with enormous price tags. There's not the market it was 3 or 4 years ago. So David Gabriel, being the guy that's running sales, has to come up with a new solution to get that, to continue that upward, to not not regress on revenue incoming and market share and units moved and everything like that. So as a result, we get events to replace a variants that didn't work or variants that are no longer working. I don't know how much that is CB. I don't know how much that is Tom Brevert, and I don't know how much that is David Gabriel.
It's definitely still a problem. Then the other thing
It
that,
really
that I
is.
think is still a problem, and it's not really so much of a customer problem. It's definitely a retailer problem. It's the predatory schemes. It's the party variant ordering schemes to make you buy comics that you can't sell in order to get your hands on the more valuable comics that your most diehard customers are going to want access to. And Marvel is absolutely the very worst as far as predatory practices go in the industry. They're far worse than DC Comics, and it's just maintained the status quo under CB Cebulski. I really wish he would address that.
I wish he would too, but I think that as long as the market out there keeps buying them, they're going to keep producing them. And that's the problem. Now, has the market for those shrank? Yeah, we've had that discussion before on, completist collectors that have started walking away, myself being one of them, that have abandoned that. So they're marketing those to an ever shrinking pool of customers. They need to find a way to not regress in sales. And if that's a way to artificially inflate the first 6 issues of a series, and considering that they've, look, we still have a lot of the same problems. Nothing ongoing is actually ongoing because it's just going to get rebooted in anywhere from 6 to 24 months. They're going to come back with a bunch of variants for the first half dozen issues minimum of all different level ratios. They'll mix an event in the middle. They'll take, if a story starts really being good and people are really, in one title that's kind of self-contained is becoming very, popular, the way that they did with Absolute Carnage in the Venom series. They'll pull the payoff for that out of the single book and put it into its own event, the same way they did with War of the Realms. And then they try all the one shot or tie-ins or crossovers or everything in order to try to inflate the whole, a bunch of other book sales. But in the end, it drives people away. But there's still enough people that are apparently buying into it, or comic shops that are still looking at it, from a perspective of how did readers react 6 to 24 months ago. They haven't adjusted their ordering practices yet. I mean, and they keep doing these $10 preview books, stuff like Incoming or both XMen number ones, with $8 price tags. They did the same with that Marvel 1000, Marvel 1001, all these kind of fake events, fake previews, fake, all this nonsense but stores are still buying them. Now, I walk into my store and I still see 100 copies of Incoming sitting on the shelf. I don't know if even 10% of their order moved. And stores need to get burned big on some of these to actually adjust their ordering practices. Because right now, Marvel's still responding to whatever the stores are ordering. And if the stores haven't adjusted their ordering practices, Marvel's going to keep going.
So there are definitely some things that they needed to address. But this is more about all the good things that have changed under CB Cebulski since he arrived as the EIC. And I think Marvel has made so much headway and is a better company today than when he arrived. They definitely have some things to address in the future, but I'm a much bigger fan of Marvel today than I was then. I'm actually reading more Marvel comics today than I was DC, and it wasn't even close when he took over. So I see better things ahead. Hopefully they keep the momentum going. It fell off the rails there for a few months, but it feels like Marvel's in a good place today, and I'm really excited for it.
I am too. I mean, I look at the overall trend and it's trending in the right direction. Now, is it ever going to be perfect? No. Are we going to get 1987 Marvel back anytime soon? Unfriggin' likely. But we're going to get further and further away from 2017 Marvel, 2018 Marvel, 2019 Marvel, and hopefully 2020, 2021, 2022 are all on the same positive track.
Well, I want to say thank you very much for joining me on the channel today, Doc. Had a good discussion about CB Cebulski and some of the changes that have happened under his stewardship, and we both, I think, we agree that we see brighter days ahead for Marvel Comics.
I would believe so too. I still think David Gabriel and Tom Brevoort need to go in the not too distant future, but they're going in the right track.
All right, Doc. Thanks, buddy. Later.
Take care, brother.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.